Okay, and welcome to Jasper, the Jasper Library, on Treaty 6 and 8 and Métis Region number 4. This is our Genius in Loci sessions, and it is generously sponsored by the Friends of the Library Society and the Canadian Council for the Arts. They funded the Writer-in-Residence program at the Jasper Library. My name is Paulette Blanchette-Dubé, and I am the Writer-in-Residence. Tonight, our genius is David Harrap. And for those of you who don't know, probably David, maybe, but Genius in Loci is, the sessions are born because I wanted to showcase the actual geniuses of this place. And the genius is not only that David is incredibly intelligent, which he is, but he's also a genius.
Some would dispute that, but
it's fine. The audience is fine. Is that we're like genies of this place, and genies are the spirits that embody a place and also protect a place. And if there's anybody who is a genius for Jasper, it would be David Harrap, as you're about to find out. David is the author of the critically acclaimed Littlest Hiker and Roses for Northern Gardeners, Growing Ideas, Volume 1 and 2, and the much anticipated The Kid Who Skied to School and Smoked Cigars, a memoir of a single dad. He is also a long-standing The Jasper Local contributor, former CBC Radio Canada gardening expert, strong beer aficionado, and a wonderful dad. And a sharp dresser. Leo.
They are
very sharp. He spent 2 years in New York City and 3 years in Cape Cod, gathering material for his work because he was a waiter at the time. And David told me a great story about when he was in Cape Cod. They were filming some movie about some shark. And so that gives you sort of an idea of David, very unassuming. So we'll get started with the questions, and then David will grace us with some of his product. So David, how long have you lived in Jasper?
We came in '93, arrived in a broken down tempo.
And do you think that living here, after all your travels and whatnot, does living here still influence your work?
Yeah, certainly, because I wrote gardening articles for years. I lived in the Okanagan, in Vernon, which you can grow anything. I even had peanuts. You could grow them too. But coming to Jasper, most of my writing has been on the mountains and stuff we've done here, me and my son, and yeah. So.
Did you keep writing about gardening and whatnot?
I did for a bit, and then they got on to me. It's funny because years ago, when I moved to the Okanagan, I wrote for I wrote a couple of articles for an Alberta magazine. I can't remember the name of it, and they were very parochial. And I wrote this article on sweet corn, and I get this phone call. And she says, "I've just found out you don't live in Alberta. We can't publish it, I'm afraid." And and the thing is, I mean, whether you live in Alberta, Edmonton, or Okanagan, I mean, growing's the techniques are the same.
Exactly.
The climate's a bit different. Yeah. But so yeah, I wrote a bit here on gardening, and then one by one, and again, being a freelancer, you get knocked off. They run out of money. So I continued for a while when I was here, writing gardening articles, and then I started writing stuff on the mountains. Yeah.
They tend to get into your work. I find they creep in. Even if you don't want them to, the mountains.
But I mean, no matter where I live, like one winter we went over to England, and Liam went to school, and I got a job as a jobbing gardener. And I have a manuscript that I wrote about that, pheasants in the potting shed. So, no matter where you are, I think if you want to write,
you do.
Yeah. but here certainly, I mean, I have lots of, golly, for 29 years, we've been going up in the mountains, so I've got lots of stories.
Yeah, I remember, and this is just an aside, but I was a teacher, and one of the first things that I was introduced to in Jasper was this beautiful book called The Littlest Hiker, and it's about David and his son Leo, who do all of the mountains all around here in Jasper. If you get a chance to read it, it's stunning because it has photographs that will take you up the mountain if you can't make it yourself, and it has maps, and it has these lovely stories about he's 4 years old.
Yeah, he was 4 years old when we climbed Pyramid Mountain.
Yeah.
He had just turned 4. They'd lock me up today. I'd have social services banging on the door, arresting me, child endangerment.
No, he's wearing a helmet. I saw him.
It has just happened. Yeah, I got a bike seat on the bike, being a single dad, and then we did the trails, and then we saw the mountains. I'd never climbed a mountain before in my life, and
that was your first one?
That was my first one, and it was Liam's first one too. So
it's pretty good.
It's
pretty good for a first one.
But yeah, it was. It had. Yeah, today I'm pretty sure they would be
knocking on the door.
Oh, social services wouldn't want this at all, would their little kid?
Oh, it's great. It's just great because that's one of the first things that when we first moved here, and I was looking around, and Andre was just a baby, and I said, I want to be able to look at every mountain and say, yes, I climbed that one. Yes, I climbed that one. Yeah. It's not as easy as you think.
No, it isn't.
But there's quite a few that we've done,
yeah.
So that's good.
Good.
Yeah. Can we just go back to your own childhood?
Sure.
Where were you born?
In Buckinghamshire, in Chesham Boys, between Amersham and Chesham, so it's 30 miles from London.
Okay.
And I was born there, yeah.
And you did all your schooling in England?
Yeah, I went to a private school, prep school they call it, and then I went to a public school, which over here would be called a private school, Berkhamsted School for Boys. It's no longer Berkhamsted School for Boys because girls are there now. And you went there. It was actually Graham Greene, his father, was headmaster there. Not when I was there.
Wow.
And then, so I grew up in England and was educated.
And did you have, this is a question that I asked Nikki just because I knew some of her teachers, but were some teachers very influential for you?
I can't say they were. There was the person who was most instrumental, I think, it was a friend that he was several years older than we were. 4 or 5 years older, Brian, and we met him accidentally, and what he taught us with the love of the outdoors, we'd go out and camp in the woods, and probably he among all the other ones probably influenced my brother and I the most. And then there was also, when I was going to school, I had a job in gardening, and one of the places I worked was for Frank Cyril James, who had just retired as from McGill University. He was the what do they call the head honcho in the universities? Yeah. Chancellor. He was Chancellor. Yeah, a wonderful man. I always remember I borrowed 10 quid off him, and I'd only been there a couple of weeks to buy a car.
10 quid
to buy a car, yes.
Wow.
Yes, I've never had top-notch cars, but I had a top-notch bike for 1 year,
Yeah, well, but, you have to.
Yeah,
yeah. Because I was going to ask you if somebody had recognized your genius, your aptitude for writing at a young age. Like, was there somebody who, even did you go to university and
No, I didn't. No, there was. The first bit of writing I did was I kept diaries as a young boy, and I have a 1951 diary.
Wow.
Not much in it, And of course, we used to get diaries at Christmas, and you'd start off with a flourish in January the 1st, and you know, and then slowly, and then towards the end of the summer, it would say didn't do much.
That was summer's here.
Yeah, yeah. But so, and the first writing I did professionally was, I think, in the beginning, around about 81 or 82. And I can't remember the name of it was a gardening outfit in Ontario. But that's how it started.
Do you remember how much you got paid?
I was paid by the word.
Oh, wow.
But I can't remember how much it was. It might have maybe 5 cents, I don't know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite a small outfit. And from there, you know, you send your stuff off, and slowly the gardening world gets to know you.
Yeah.
It was kind of nice when they would phone me instead of me having to send in submissions, you know.
That was one of the questions I had, is like, once you get out there and you get known, they come to you.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, that was really nice. And I'm waiting for them to come to me with this manuscript I have, you know.
Send it out all over the place. Do you have an agent?
No, I've tried getting one. I'm a big believer in shooting for the moon.
Yeah.
And if you land up with Old Fort Point, you land up with Old Fort Point. But if you shoot for Old Fort Point, you land up for down here. So I've always been a believer in trying to go big.
Yeah.
So I've approached literary agents in New York City, Writers House, other ones in the States. Unfortunately, as we were just saying earlier, that Canada doesn't have a huge publishing industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I've tried to get agents, you know, and I still keep trying.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
I'm not sure how to do it either. Like, as a poet, there's no agent that will touch me.
Right.
They don't do that. Well,
Yeah.
not me anyway. I'm sure there are, you know, Michael and Dachi and stuff probably figured out who doesn't have a problem with that. But as a novelist, it seems a bit easier. But they also always tell you that you need you need to be pretty big.
Yes.
So it's difficult. You can't be successful.
I mean, it's a money game. Yeah, obviously. You know, they're in the business, whether they're the publishers or they're literary. They're in the business to make money.
Yeah.
And if they see, well, golly, I don't know that we're going to make too much here. You know, you just got to keep going.
Yeah.
I'm tired of jumping through hoops with the submission guidelines. You know, they all have their submission guidelines, and I've found they're mostly a waste of time. You know, you spend hours and hours and hours, pages and pages of doing what they tell you to do, and then nobody looks at it when you submit it. And of course, it's not what you know; it's who you know.
Yeah, and I think that's where agents would come in handy, but
you know, you've got to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. Otherwise, your manuscript slides off.
Yeah, into the slush pile, and I actually got fed up with sending all these submissions, so I wrote an article for the non-fiction. Hi, how you doing? Hey, they coming to join us? I wrote an article on trying to win at the non-fiction contest, CBC.
Oh yeah.
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 I didn't hear back.
Surprise. So what would be a typical day for you?
A typical day would be that I don't have a typical day, other than making a pot of tea first thing in the morning.
Okay,
and it has to be tea leaves. I tend to run out of tea leaves, so I have to have Liam get them for me, and when I go to England I come back with a big stash of tea leaves. So that would probably be the only typical thing in my day, would be a pot of tea. And then, I mean, like today, I got out of bed,
which is always good.
Always good, you know. I had tea, and then I read. I was reading the Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Oh yeah.
Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So I read the end of that, And then I was looking up, I was actually doing a little bit of research in case it might cover some of the things we were going to talk about. Then I rode my bike over to the museum and did some pruning.
Nice.
You know, so it varies. And I mean, I write a lot of emails, and I love writing. I love writing emails. A lot of my writing is emails, and I keep a journal too. And people probably groan and, oh, not another email from David Harrap. You know, it's a long.
I find it really entertaining.
It's a long email. I try to send it out. You know, grammatically correct, in decent paragraphs. There's nothing abbreviated.
You don't even use emojis.
No, I won't. I won't eat those stupid things. You know, I mean, you know, or LOL. It took. I was years. I never understood what LOL meant, and then Liam told me, laugh out loud, ha ha ha. You know, so yeah. So a lot of my writing actually is emails. You know, and I mean, My brother's dead now, but I used to write a lot of emails. We were back, and he lived in Australia. So yeah, and I've been keeping keep a journal. So a lot of writing, and then I write articles too that you know
get out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any advice for writers? Period, because I know you do fiction and non-fiction.
Yeah.
So do you have?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I'm going to just show you these two pictures. There and there. Okay. Now you know the old cliche, don't you? This was actually Mount Robson. This is behind Opal Peak. But you know the old cliche, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Yes.
How about a picture is only worth 1,000 words, right? So do you get my point? That
yeah.
There are 5 senses. Okay, so take this picture here. This one here. It's beautiful. It must be. It's upside down.
I like them upside down.
Okay. It's obviously getting towards fall, but it doesn't tell us how hot it is. It doesn't tell us that a loon just went over. It doesn't tell us, boy, we can smell smoke in the fire. It doesn't tell us that you have this feeling of, golly, it's pretty scary out there. You know, is there a bear, you know, behind the tree? So as a writer, remember that a picture is only worth 1,000 words. And we are actually live in a society that is drugged by image. Yeah. Everything is an image. Even the radio, for crying out loud. You listen on the radio and they want to show you the pictures of the presenters. I don't want to see the pictures of the presenters because I want to imagine. And if you're going to write, and whether it's fiction or creative non-fiction, and I'm not talking about writing instruction manuals for waterbeds, right, you know, where you don't really need any imagination. But whatever you're going to write, you need imagination. Yeah. You know, and this one here too. I mean, this doesn't tell you, was it a very hot day? I mean, you can see maybe the hair is a bit blown, but you don't really know what time of year it was. Was it a scary place? What's behind here? So I've always tried to follow that with, you know, that the pictures don't, to really don't show people, don't tell people, you know, show them by descriptions. Yeah.
One of the things that I'm doing for this writer in residence is also because we are socially driven media, is I have an Instagram.
Yeah, I do too.
Right? I know, I saw yours. I'm following you, by the way.
Oh God, super. That means I've got 4 now.
You and me both, buddy. And so I've been taking photographs around Jasper for a couple of years now, and so I have a photo, and then because I'm hoping that teachers will use this, have like prompts, story prompts. So even if it's a picture of a deer, there are other questions that you can ask, not just like, what is this? This is a deer that's eating, or a squirrel that's in the tree, but what happened before, what happened after, and sort of get behind the photo. So using the photo as kind of a gateway into something that's even bigger. But you're right, like just the surface of a print. It's lovely.
It's just the sense of sight. That's it. You know, whereas a writer, you have golly, you can describe all the other senses, and you can certainly write more than 1,000 words.
Yeah, and that's really our job, is to bring people into an entire space. Like we could talk about just this room, but the library is a huge big thing, and that's our job, is to bring people throughout every room. Right? It's hard work as well. Yeah. So, quick. Yeah. 2 words that would describe you at your best.
Oh, I'm a dreamer.
Okay.
I'm a dreamer. Oh, 2 words.
Yeah, 2 words.
Keep plugging away. There's 3 words, right? But can we allow that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And do you own a watch?
I have 6 clocks in the house. I don't own a watch. I have 6 clocks in the house. 5 of them are right twice a day, and the other one is the only one that works. No, I don't have a watch, and I'm quite good. I haven't had a watch for years. The last watch I got was when I turned 21, and my girlfriend gave me a Russian watch, and it lasted 2 days. And that was the end of me wearing watches.
How long did the girlfriend last?
A bit longer than 2 days.
That's good. That's good. Did you have something?
Yeah, I do. I'd like to read, and it's interesting you talk about time, because it's quite a lengthy bit, so
good. We have time.
Hope people aren't going to fall asleep.
Nah.
This is out of my manuscript, and when Liam was in grade 1 and grade 2, he would ski to school here, and I think he was the only one that skied to school. I think at the time.
Was he wearing shorts?
Not if it was -40.
There was a limit.
Yeah.
-40, he stopped wearing shorts, but he wore shorts all the time.
Quite a bit, yeah. Anyway, so this story starts here. It was December, and because the cold was making us think of summer, and the snow was making us think of winter, we read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland to warm us up. One particular morning, the radio was talking not about lobster quadrilles, turtles, or Cheshire cats, but of Christmas shopping, minimum wage, and whether punters should sell their Briac shares and run with the profits. That was a gold mining company. After the news break, we'll speak with our gold mining analyst, said the morning show host, so stay tuned. I was not heavily invested in the market, not likely to be in the foreseeable future either. My only asset was a life insurance policy, making Dad worth more dead than alive, I would tell Liam. To which he would reply, "Where's the axe then, Dad?" I turned off the radio, put out the lights, and we went outside and snapped on our skis. Night was letting go. To the northeast, above Mount Colin, faint traces of red brushed the sky. It might be a good sunrise, I said to Liam as we set off. The temperature's not too cold, and that's when we get the best ones. We skied our trail through the trees and immediately disturbed a herd of elk that had been camped for the night. They looked indignant as they raised themselves off the ground, bum first, and I suppose, had they been dogs, they would have scratched themselves lazily, then slunk off to lay down somewhere else. As it was, they just stood and stared into the dark at things we can't see, some relieving themselves while they gazed. Both of us said sorry as we passed. Our skis took us to the other side of the woods. Liam said his were magic, for they went where they wanted without him having to steer at all. My skis must be the same make, I said, for they do that too. We knew our way blindfold. Some sleepy mornings I could even close my eyes. There was no worry about knocking someone down or of being stopped by the police for going through a stop sign or for a seatbelt violation. It was a civilized way to go to school, and you could dream of absolutely anything at all. We had passed several houses when suddenly we found ourselves sailing straight down a squirrel hole beneath a big Douglas fir. I tried yelling to Liam that this wasn't the way at all, that we should go back, but he was beside me already, and we were both falling down and down, twirling ever so slowly like a lost feather in the sky. We landed softly in a vast chamber of glass walls, but I could still see the town and the gas station, the library, the school, and across the tracks the bottle depot, where recycling was piling up as the new religion and good for saving the earth, if you had time for it. The room was full of an amazing number of clocks, but the faces had all been smashed, so you couldn't tell what time it was. That's so people can't race against time, explained a fat, round-faced little man in a stovepipe hat covered with tiny crow-blue mussel shells. There was a silver band around the bottom of the hat, and tucked behind it was a piece of white paper with the words, "Now, 1," which Liam very cleverly noticed when he saw a reflection in the window was the other word spelled backwards. "I'm the ombudsman for time," he said. "People have been very naughty, you know. Yes, very naughty indeed. They were such beautiful clocks, and smashing them seemed a shame. Couldn't you just let them go slow, run down even, not wind them up? That would slow people up, wouldn't it?" On the ground in front of every broken clock, amid the shiny cogwheels and mainsprings, the intricate big and small hands lay brass keys in the shape of a Z, as if the last letter of the alphabet symbolized that smashing the clocks really had been the last straw. "Oh no," replied the ombudsman for time. "If the clocks just ran slow, people would just be tardy, not punctual, running late all the time. No, you've got to stop time to stop people trying to beat it." We both nodded, hoping he wouldn't think us naughty, guilty of racing time with skis on. He took off his hat, shaking the cobwebs from it before carefully laying it on the floor. He pulled a fob from his trouser pocket. From his waistcoat pocket he fished out a little silver hammer on the end of a golden chain and gave the watch a bang, then listened to make sure the watch wasn't going. Satisfied that everything was in order, he put the watch back in his pocket and his hat back on his head. But a lock of white hair like spun silk hung over the ermine collar of his coat, and both of us wondered if it wasn't time he got a haircut. Liam whispered that he must be very old with hair like that, and I whispered to be careful he didn't hear. "Old people can be very touchy about their age," I said. The ombudsman must have heard us talking, for he said he didn't know how old he was, since he hadn't had a birthday in ages, because birthdays are in the future and they never do come around when you have time on your hands like we do here. Anyway, they don't seem to matter, he said. We both felt a bit sad for him and looked at one another as we shuffled our skis in silence. Suddenly Liam squeaked out with a grin, "Well, it saves you baking all those cakes," and turning to me for commendation for discovering such a splendid reason for not having birthdays, added, "Wouldn't it, Dad?" The ombudsman looked pensive and stroked his beard and said Liam definitely had a point, which made Liam's day. He then explained how the people had been so naughty. They've been trying to kill time, beat time, waste time, save time, and he chuckled and raised his bushy eyebrows as if the very idea was just too ludicrous for words. Can you imagine even saying they can't find time? But it's here, all around, 24 hours a day. No one gets less, no one gets more. That's my job, you see, to help people realize. It's quite a job, you know. That's why I need the muscles to keep me going. Someone's got to do it. It's not right to keep something as important as this under your hat. Now, is it? We said he was quite right. Then Liam asked why there was a hole in the top of his hat. He said it helped him keep cool when he got hot and bothered with all the people rushing so much. Liam wondered if smoke came out of his hat. No, said the man. It was for letting off steam. The ombudsman took the small piece of paper from his hat. Have you ever wondered, he said, how long is now? Liam, wanting to look clever, said 12 kilometers. Puzzled looks. I know the time it takes to eat a hot fudge sundae. What if you eat the hot fudge sundae on Monday, the little man said. Ah, you've got us there, I replied. But not wanting to look completely stupid, I said, I have noticed that people preferred, rather than saying now, to saying at this moment in time. He said he'd noticed that too, but that didn't change anything, and anyway, the phrase was just too long to write on his hat. He said, when you understand now, you've won. We both looked puzzled. You see, he continued, now is all the time. It never ends, for every moment we live is now. So when you live that way, living in the now, well, my dears, you've won. Time is no longer your enemy. But what about the beautiful sunrise? That's now, said Liam, and that will end about the time I get to school. Yes, it will, said the Ombudsman, but now won't. It will stay with you during the day. And when you wake up tomorrow morning, there it will be. Think of that escalator at the big store. It doesn't stop because you get to the bottom or the top. It keeps going. That's like now. It's all the time, but right now. It's about living now. Now, doesn't that seem better than chasing a rainbow you can never catch? You see, when you live for the now, time doesn't matter anymore. You both saw the beautiful sunrise because you weren't worried about being late for school. There now, what do you say to that? We won, said Liam. We won, didn't we, Dad? Now I'd have to say I guess we jolly well did. Liam shuffled his skis and in slow motion did a spin around the room, running over a dozen broken clocks as he went. I told him to behave. He said he was practicing for tomorrow. At school they were going to learn how to ski. You look a very good skier to me, said the Ombudsman. But tomorrow we're having our first lesson. At the moment, tomorrow doesn't exist, replied the little man as he sat down on a very comfy chair stuffed full with cushions. There is only today, and today is ours, and you're doing very well with your skiing right now. Yes, said Liam, hopping from one ski to the other. I whispered, did he have to go to the bathroom? He said he didn't, not right now anyway. But today will be yesterday tomorrow, won't it? I could tell he was really hoping to catch the old gentleman out. Ah, that's the jam conundrum. Conundrum? Yes, Alice in Wonderland. His memory wasn't the sharpest, and now he had his books mixed up. We thought best not to mention it. Jam tomorrow, jam yesterday, never jam today. But, and this is what's so marvellous, here it's the upside down of the jam thing. Because there's no tomorrow, no yesterday, it's today all the day long. So as long as there's jam, you can have it as long as you want. You can even have it on a nice piece of brown toast. Other than realizing that today's were extremely long and that jam, even raspberry, was nice, but he really wouldn't want it all day long, Liam hadn't a clue what the old man was talking about. But he didn't want to let on, so he said, if you took a plane, could you get to tomorrow quicker? Oh no, said the Ombudsman, you'd just be late for today. He said he saw no necessity to travel quickly because you always arrive before you're ready to. That's what happens when you race. It's like being turned inside out and very uncomfortable. He said he heard the kettle boiling and asked if we'd like a cup of tea. We both said yes please, and 2 sugars if you don't mind. He came back carrying a glass tray with bone china cups and saucers and a teapot and asked, should he be mother? Liam looked at me askance. He means, should he pour? I whispered. Instead of tea coming from the spout, every colour imaginable flowed out, and he filled our cups to brimming so that colours were splashing into the saucers and all over the tray, then running in rainbow streams to the golden floor where they formed pools of imprisoned light that glowed as if lit from within. The Ombudsman for Time said it was for the sunrise. Now you have all the time in the world, you can paint it however you like. Liam suddenly remembered he might miss the bell and said, hadn't we better hurry? For a moment, now, that really wasn't a moment, for nothing here seemed to have any time attached other than the present, and certainly the future never came because the present didn't let it, which was jolly good if you were worried about being late for school, but not the best if you were waiting for birthdays. The Ombudsman got quite cross and reminded us that everyone here must be on friendly terms with time, and hurrying was definitely not allowed since we were in a space-time continuum where it stays 8:30 as long as you like. Immediately Liam felt better. In that case, he said, why don't we have another cup of tea, Dad, and really enjoy the sunrise? We passed lit windows, yawning people pulling on clothes, slumped at breakfast tables or busy darting here and there trying to find things. Time probably, I said to Liam. The sky was salmon and lit up the rooms of the houses so they glowed like the inside of a fabulous seashell. People rushed around like loose bits of sand. We could see right through the houses to the driveways and the cars warming up. Drivers carrying half-drunk cups of coffee came out of the houses, chivying the children. You'll be late. We skied on in the edge of the trees, on the edge of the town, there but not there. Outside observers on our magic dreaming skis, so where the present distilled time into a chromatic aberration of intense beauty. Ooh, that's a sentence, isn't it? The sky became the fires of hell, tons of flaming orange and red, crimson and gold, lighting up Tikara, Hardesty, Kakesnin, mountains to the east of town. Night was changing to day, darkness to light, the moment when sparks fly and the earth stops spinning before turning in the opposite direction, the time when all creation comes to life and sings about it. We crossed the road at the bottom of the hill by the church. The street lights went out, all on a timer. The hectic reds of the sky were changing, now orange and yellows flashed over the mountains. Two ravens flew lazily overhead, giving a lingering deep guttural quawk, as if they were heralds sounding morning trumpets. Cars rushed down the road, occupants glowering at little red numbers on the dashboard. When the numbers changed, everyone yelled, oh dear, we're going to be late. Oh dear, where's the time gone? The tyranny of clocks ruling us. The cars went faster, as if racing the little red light, but the numbers kept changing and it just wasn't possible. So drivers gulped coffee instead and gave final instructions to children who kept saying, Mummy, Daddy, look at the sunrise. Poor Mummy and Daddy wanted to, but the light on the dashboard wouldn't let them. And this bloody tyrant time made them hot and bothered and feeling quite unwell. Men got heartburn, women got hives, and both planned to see the doctor when they had the time. Feeling guilty, parents promised children and each other that this Sunday would be family time, quality time. We'll spend the whole day together. Promise, start planning now, kids. But the long faces on the children said bullshit. They knew that quality time was a myth, because family time often turned sour even if Mummy and Daddy jumped up and down like cheerleaders. Time is time to children. It doesn't come like petrol in different octanes. Time is high octane all the time, but once it's gone, it's like the exhaust belting out the back of Dad's truck. Useless. In a strange way, children know the truth about time, and anyway, promises for Sunday were just too far off. Children played in the schoolyard, building forts and snowmen, throwing illegal snowballs when the teacher wasn't looking. Vehicles disgorged children, parents with long faces as they rushed to their jobs, for they had been lied to at the glum factory, and they could no more save time than save the sunrise from the day's light. A miasma of fumes tried to float away unseen, but the sunrise hunted it down, and a sad cloud of coral exhaust hung in the sky like pain over the schoolyard. The snow was trodden like spread butter. A parent hurried up the road, reading to her daughter as she went, an assignment done late, a library book due back that day. The bell rang. A teacher told some boys to come down off a snowbank. I said goodbye to Liam. Everyone went inside. The schoolyard was empty and silent, the snow all trampled down. I skied up trail 2, but I kept looking over my shoulder at the sky. It was softer now. The fires of hell changed to the delicate colours of I have trouble with this word, T-polo fresco. I stopped at a clearing and looked down on the town. It was quieter, only a few cars on the road. The post office would be open and the coffee shops busy. Shafts of gold lit up streamers of fluffy clouds floating in from the west, and heraldic rays like World War II searchlights looking for enemy planes shone from behind the long slope of Mount Hardesty. Little puffs of smoke rose from the town, and the icy tip of Mount Friat glinted like a golden sovereign. I skied to the top of the hill, crossed the road by Cottonwood Slough, then the wooden bridge over the creek and along the crest of an open slope, making my way home. The reds and yellows, the pinks and salmons had all gone. The curtain had dropped, the scenery rolled up and put away. The sky, the mountains, the snow and ice were the grim steel grey of winter. People left the coffee shops, but their eyes were blinkered, for they could not see beyond the grim into the peace behind. The world was as it was winter, and many couldn't wait for spring. People checked their computers for the latest price of Briex and wondered should they sell today. Others signed up for high-speed internet and hoped they wouldn't have to wait long to get service. Time's money, they said. Children painted green sunsets and purple trees, blue mountains and orange streams, silver suns and golden moons, birds and bears and rainbow fish, Buzz Lightyear Woody and the McDonald's golden arches, and teachers excitedly told them about Windows 95. The elk brushed the snow away with their hooves, chewed a little dry grass, then sat down front legs first. They lifted noble heads, and they stared past the trees, over the mountains, through the clouds, finding the sun. And the elk sat like stone lambs in the stillness. If a tiny ant can teach us about being industrious, imagine what a big elk can teach us if we view them as more than just food and hide. A fellow learns a lot about living from watching the beasts. We concentrate too much on sunsets, riding off into the sunset, sailing into the night, but either way, sunsets are synonymous with the end of the journey, heading for the shadows, the blackness, death. Yet it's sunrises we should be watching. We should take the sunrise for our slogan. Light is everything. How many sunrises had I seen? I don't know. How many more will there be? How many more will I see? I don't know. When the fire turns to cold ashes, when I fold up the tent and strike off for that lonely night, will I say, boy, I should have spent more time making money. As I took off my skis and climbed the stairs to the apartment, I was thinking that we might not have skied to school that day. We might have taken the car instead. We would have missed the sunrise.
Wow.
I got another one.
Wait, I have some more questions for you.
Okay.
That's what people won't take?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't sent that part.
Send that part.
Send that part?
Send that part.
Okay, I'll send that
Yeah.
part.
You don't send the whole manuscript, you're just sending out sections?
Yeah, in the past I followed submission guidelines, and you know they don't want the whole manuscript. And no, I don't.
No,
want to
they
send it
don't.
either.
But it's always a crapshoot. Like, which one are you going to send?
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So I mean, I've sent examples like
Yeah.
that one, and then this one is flying with geese. I think I might have sent that one.
This reminds me, there's the little prince that shows up. It's a beautiful Alice in Wonderland. It's still topsy-turvy. It's like your Mount Robson picture. It's all upside down. It's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you.
That's
Yeah.
really, really nice.
Yeah.
And I don't like elk because I've been chased by them, but it sure gives you an idea, for people who aren't from Jasper, it's exactly the setting. You've done the writer job on this one. Thank you. It's great.
I'm not that crazy on elk. My favorite are the mule deer.
Yeah.
And the little pikers. I love the little pikers.
Did you notice there's a lot of deer this year?
Yeah, quite a bit.
A lot more.
Yeah.
I thought anyway. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden now we've got whitetail all over
Yeah.
the place.
Yeah, I've never seen those before in
Mhm.
town.
I know.
No.
And now they look like unicorns.
Yeah.
Because they're not here. But okay. Another question. Your first or favorite car or mode of transportation?
I
'Cause
thought
know
I
you don't-
told you to
No,
do
you
it.
told me a Pinto. Some
Oh,
old-
a pin. I hate cars.
Okay.
I'm like Thesiger. He was the last great explorer. I forget Wilfred Thesiger. He explored the empty quarter in Saudi Arabia, and he called BC was before cars, because he detested cars, and actually I detest them too. I use them obviously, you know, to get from A to B.
Yeah.
But I don't. As long as the thing goes, I don't care what it is.
So that's not your first transportation? Then what was your first transportation?
A bike.
Okay. And the most expensive thing would be a bike?
Probably I had a Rocky Mountain Blizzard, and I have never owned a mode of transportation that I've had admiring looks. But I got admiring looks with my Rocky Mountain Blizzard. I got it from Freewheel when we came, 1993. and I'd have,
Jealousy followed
I'd have,
you
you know, I'd think, wow, is that and then I had amp forks on the front of it, and they were, I think it was the only one in town that had amp forks on their bike. Well, that lasted a year till 94 models came out, you know, and then they realized this old guy with his hat backwards, you know, what's that stupid old idiot doing riding that bike, you know. So that was probably, yeah, for a year. Golly, I felt
Cool
good.
guy, yeah,
Oh,
cool
yeah.
guy. So, if that was like your rock star moment,
Probably
what would, yeah, what would, or what does success look like to you?
Well, I really would like this to be published, you know, and with a decent publisher, because I put an awful lot of work into it.
Yeah.
And I've got no money, but, you know, if there were, you know, royalties coming in, Liam can, you know, get
Yeah.
it, you know,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you get royalties from the other ones?
no. I got a flat payment for the Lone Pine one.
But you know, if you have like the Littlest Hiker, you can get access copyright and you can get like payback.
Okay.
I'll give you the stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a lot, but
Yeah.
at least it's something.
Yeah,
We used
sure.
to buy Hungry Man dinners
Yeah.
because once a year I
Yeah.
get royalties.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Oh, sure.
sure. Okay, good. I'll let you know. Where would you like to be in 3 years?
Still alive.
Good. Good. Still getting out of bed?
Still getting out of bed, and I have so many more mountains, so many places I want to go back to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, you know, secret places that I still want to get to, that we've been in the past, and, you know, they're hard to get to. Well, I'm talking about climbing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the couple of mountains that I never got up. I chickened out of Mount Saskatchewan, 100 feet from the summit. And Liam sends down the rope, and I don't know, I got vertigo or something, you know. So, yeah, so I've got a few plans.
If you're 100 feet from the summit, do you still say you climbed?
No,
it?
no.
See, I do. I say I climbed it. I
Yeah.
just don't say I summited it.
Yeah, no, it's got to be, and even if there's a cairn on top, we've almost got to stand on top of the cairn, because you're actually at the high point,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. But words are important. So I would say I didn't summit. I
Yeah,
climbed.
that's
Did you
okay.
climb that one? Oh, I climbed that
And
one.
that's okay, yeah, because I mean, you know, maybe the last 50 yards is nothing.
That's right.
You know,
You could stretch out.
yeah,
Just-
yeah.
Sure. Okay. What would be your dream job?
My dream job at 76, I don't
Yeah.
know that I have a dream job. The only dream job I've ever had in my life, I never had it, this was way back in England, back in the 60s. I worked for a publisher of form books, racing form books, and I also worked for bookmakers, and my dream job was to be a settler in a betting shop, and this was way before the computers, but these guys had to figure out all the odds.
Yeah.
And you know, you went in there and had 10 shillings on 100 to 8 winner, and I mean, you know, we're talking, and
Fast math.
you had four winners, accumulators, so that was about, I really, God, I admired those guys, and I can't think of another job that I've admired more than that.
It takes a specific kind of brain to do
Yeah,
that sort of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
For sure. And what are you reading right now?
What am I reading?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Well, I tend to read more than one book at a time.
Same.
I'm reading, sorry, I wrote it down here. I'm just started a book to Timbuktu, A Journey Down the Niger. I'm reading again Stephen King's terrific book on writing. I've read it a few times. And then I picked up a Robert Service book here I think yesterday or the day before, Under the Spell of the Yukon, and I've started to read that. So,
It's a good one.
and then I'm trying to read Hamlet, but golly, it's a struggle, you know.
Do
so,
it in different voices. It's
yeah,
easier.
yeah, you know. So I always have more than one book on the go, and I like to read in the bath, and I don't like to take a good book in the bath, so I take a paperback, and I
Yeah.
usually fall asleep, and the
Right.
paperback is being that thin, it's just thick when you come out of the bath, you know.
That's another thing I want. Not only a watch, but also like a thing that you could put
Oh,
on the
lovely,
back,
yes.
right? And then you could put your book right on there instead of
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I do a lot of reading
Just-
in the
And a
back.
glass of wine.
and a glass of wine. Oh, on the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. that
No,
would
because
be-
then for sure I'll fall asleep.
Yeah.
My glasses are a little bit bigger than probably yours. And now, will you read another piece for us?
Okay, sure. This one is entitled Flying with Geese, and this is the ending of my manuscript that's soon to be a New York Times bestseller.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I'm a dreamer.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you do have to wake up, you know.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway.
Eventually.
Yeah, so this was, we went to see the Leonid Meteor shower, and this was, this was I think 2000, year two, and it was November, and we went and winter camped. It was really cold. We went and winter camped up at the Bald Hills. So this is towards the end of the meteor shower. By 5 o'clock, things had quietened, and just a few falling stars ran over the sky, like tears over a cheek. On an ordinary night, this would be outstanding, but this had been no ordinary night. Newspapers would report that a meteor storm such as this wouldn't be seen for years. Between the counting of meteors, Liam had dropped to sleep. I lay staring. I'm sleeping outside the tent. Liam had originally to watch it, and then he'd gone back in the tent. I lay staring at the Rocky Mountain sky with its billions of stars. If I looked the right way, I saw no darkness at all. A hazy canopy of pure nebulosity, a cancelling of Olber's paradox, and among the billions of stars were billions that had grown old and died. But what did it matter? Their light was here, and that's what counted. Satellites orbiting, spinning around the Earth like a spider, wrapping its victim with thread. The crackling of galaxies and the static with nowhere to go. The Magellan Clouds spiraling like smoke from the Milky Way. The Horsehead Nebula absorbing light like a blot of ink. Supernova that outshine entire galaxies. What did it all mean? Was there just a big mirror in the sky to fool us? A Professor Marvel behind twirling the knobs? Was it all humbug? At death, the curtain pulled aside to reveal nothing at all. Our lives so brief, as if in orbit for 162 days, circling the Earth 2,570 times, then falling as a tiny star in the night. Little Hiker, the canine cosmonaut of Sputnik 2, dying of fright, dying just a few hours into flight, like us, dying just as we get going. The night wore on and the cold grew worse. The sky was so clear, so deep, I was almost afraid to look for fear of falling in. I eyed the stars differently now. Their light was useless, for there was nothing lucky about them, these pinpricks of chicanery. They told us nothing other than amplifying the loneliness that is within the mind of every soul. They could have been 10 billion miles away for all the good they did. I hunkered down into my bag, pulling it over my head to escape the cold. If it could, it would suck every last bit of warmth from my body, leaving me a frozen corpse on a ridge somewhere up in Bald Hills. The cold kept me from deep sleep, and I lay just beneath the surface of consciousness like a drifting fish. Sometimes I dreamt, sometimes I didn't, but no matter what I did, my feet were always cold. Liam had pinched my socks. 7 o'clock, I looked outside my sleeping bag. The mountains to the east had lost the third dimension, silhouetted against a lightning sky. I watched the sky turn yellow, and clouds that moments ago had been dark suggestions turned to puffs of delicate pink. Dawn coming, a whole illuminated day ahead. I crackled as I got out of my sleeping bag. Liam was sound asleep in the tent. I went to the kitchen rock to start the stove for tea, but I couldn't turn the valve on. Fingers wouldn't work. Wires down, cold. Strange how it takes away your power, like old age. You can't even strike a match. Fingers like sausages, useless. I finally got the stove going, lit the fire. Liam came out of the tent, and we sat with our tea, staring at the setting. Crystal mountains in a splendid sky. A bling-bling day, blue and sparkling, a sapphire big as life. I made breakfast. Did you hear that, Liam? Voices. He set his plate of bacon and sausage on the snow and listened. Dad, that's Geese. I could hear them now, long skeins of Canada geese coming out of the north in perfect chevrons, doing what they always do, loudly discussing the next lap of the great Odyssey, showing offspring the way to go. They swept overhead, these gilded messengers of the sun-drenched day, sailing across the peaks on high blue journeys. Time's winged chariot heading south, showing the way we all must go. After breakfast we skied higher and came across a herd of caribou. They ran off the ridge like an avalanche pouring from a cornice. The startling brightness, the mysterious shadows, the running caribou, the sailing geese, better to feel it than to describe it. And for a long moment it felt as if we had arrived in some fabulous fairy tale. The geese kept crumbing. Before one team reached the end of the lake, another announced its presence. Ringed by the brilliant sky, sun glinting off backs, wings beating powerfully, necks thrust out with implacable intent, this great flying wedge of feather and bone, muscle and might, wisdom and glory cut through the heavens like the meteors of last night's storm, on and on to oblivion. Holding hands in the glitter, we just stood and watched, said nothing. The sun was warm on our red down jackets, and our breath sparkled in blue. Standing in the beauty, we seemed to have forgotten there was such a thing as the future on such a perfect day. I don't know how long we stood there looking and listening to the voices, hours, days, months, years. Our hearts gone to freedom. It was all a dream, those floating dreams of life that catch you unexpected. We had taken the fork in the road, and where had it led us? Back to the beginning. We go west to go east, the sunset becomes dawn, the magic shadows show goes on, the wheel of life turning, even missing a few spokes, bringing us back to where we started. From the dust to the dust, no matter which way we go. The only reality is the moment, living the moment, all the way up, blazing like meteors before falling to darkness. And the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started. So I was back at the beginning, and Eliot, that's T.S. Eliot, was right. For with the understanding, the place did look different. The familiar turned to the fabulous. Yet the final destination was not the Leonid meteor shower, but rather the understanding of all that we had seen in the moment. Life is made up of moments, and they come at you, one at a time, big, glorious moments, building like thunderheads and exploding to all that they mean. We had lived in all the colours, laughed and wept, watched the sunsets, felt the sunrises, walked on the frozen torrents, seen stars in the streams, heard the music of mountains, sensed the tremble of lonely meadows, listened to the cosmic chords, danced on the tips of the earth, and by God, what moments they were. Everything fell away. The world narrowed to an old man and a boy, standing together in the glitter, standing together in the loneliness. Are you coming with us? They called down. Where are you going? To the other side of tomorrow, where we always go. Are you coming? But how will we know when you're there? Tomorrow we'll know. Are you coming? Already the geese were little dashes of black on the sky beyond the mountains, little dashes of black silhouetted on the edge of eternity. I looked at the back of my hands, veins risen, skin creased and wrinkled like old parchment. I felt the sadness. I felt the shadows approaching. Yes, I'll come, I call back, but let me tell Liam first. He pulls his hand from mine and stares incredulously at me for a long moment. But Dad, I've got stuff to do here. He squints an eye, bites his lip and drops his head to one side, as if he's tipping me the nod. You know, stuff. But I'm going, you see, I have to go. It's the way it is, like the geese. He looks at me again, but this time the puzzlement is gone. I see the understanding, the realization that our days together have been a wondrous Aladdin's dream. But he knows now that everything is to be different. He smiles, and for a moment I see the sadness in his face, but his big brown eyes are twinkling like streams full of stars. I'm floating away, then I'm flying with the geese under the diamonds, through that blue morning sky, through that sunlit silence to the long horizon, the freedom of the hills, on and on towards forever. And when I look back, there's Liam and his faraway life standing alone as his own little man, a little red bollard set firmly in the snow. The dream is behind me now, for I have chosen to wake up. But what a dream it was, that beautiful morning, a dream as beautiful as all the moments we have spent together, father and son.
Well, that's pretty good.
Well, I hope the publisher thinks.
I don't even care about masks.
No, I
Thank you.
don't.
That was very, very good, and I think if our place here is to survive, it's because of genius like you. So thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks. Thank you.
I think we're good, and thank you very much. We'll see you next week.